Time for episode 24 of Commentator's Corner. And for those that will have met this man in real life at Christmas parties at Simply Race, is to my immediate left-hand side. My guest this time is the man behind the community at oNID Racing. A very warm welcome, Jonny Ashley, who also, when I was doing the Simply Race British Championships, and I found this out just before we went on air, that you became an Alex Goldschmidt superfan the minute I gave you a big old shout out when you went high, wide and handsome at one particular corner, if I remember correctly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to be here. And I joined the club straight away. I was like, that man has recognised my abilities or lack of. And yeah, that was it. It was set in stone then.
Well, if you'd run out of talent, I would have said you would have done an Alex Verts, because he was quite apt about that at Le Mans one year when he was running with Toyota. But Jonny, the first thing I like for my guests to do is to give your own introduction to the folks at home, to tell them who you are.
So I'm Jonny Ashley. I'm the community owner of oNID Community Racing. I have been sim racing for a long time, really. I started off in Grand Prix 2 when I was about 6 years old, and then kind of got back into it in my late 20s. I've been running oNID now for 2.5 years. I have 3,500 members, and I'm an Alex Goldschmidt superfan.
And also, by all things, well, if people don't know, oNID Racing is the home of Jimmy Broadbent on SGP. There you go.
It is indeed. We are one of the I think we are one of the biggest communities on SGP as well. We've got Jimmy as well. So all started off as a little community with just a few friends, and some you'll know and we'll talk about later on. And and here we are.
Well, Jonny, let's talk about one thing I always like to talk about with regards to my guests, that sim racing also has a correlation to real life motorsport. So how did you get bitten, and who was the main catalyst? Was it a friend? Was it a family member that got you involved into motorsport? Just tell us a little bit of the story on that.
So motorsport was in my blood from a very young age. My granddad and my dad were massive Formula One fans in the mid-90s. So I kind of grew up watching that, and the touring cars as well, with the likes of Alain Menu and Gerhard Muller and everything that used to be on Grandstand on BBC. So Saturday afternoons was always full of racing, and I've had family members that work in racing as well. So I have an uncle that used to work for Richard Childress Racing in NASCAR. I had an uncle who worked for Arrows and Jordan as well, so in Formula One. So kind of the bug's always been there. So it was kind of the family, and then things change over your life, and you keep in touch with motorsport a little bit. But football was always a big thing for me when I was kind of in my teens and going into my early 20s. And then I got too fat and slow to play football. And motorsport came back in, and it was actually Ben Brown, a good friend of ours, Ben Brown, that introduced me to Simply Race in Milton Keynes, maybe 2015. And said, because we always used to play kind of Forza and Formula One on the Xbox, that kind of thing. And he said, well, come and try some simulator racing at Simply Race. And I was hooked, absolutely hooked. And it became a staple of our Friday nights. We'd go to the Friday nights at Simply Race, and I just got the bug. And it wasn't until 2020 and COVID hit that I got my rig and my wheel and was like, right, let's go and do some racing, because we couldn't do it out in public. We had to do it at home. So that's kind of what come of it.
So the first question I really want to ask, because we are going away from like the commentator and the host sort of perspective, what is involved in setting up a sim racing community where you said started up 2.5 years ago during the global pandemic? You've now got over 3,500 members of the community. There are multiple leagues on oNID. What were the first steps to create the community and get a gathering of people who now also meet IRL? Obviously, as you say, the oNID parties are normally at Simply Race. I've been looking on your social media. We'll get to social media in a minute. But like, say, Will Dendy, who's been running in GT Cup, also has worked with Cami Sturch, who's a future guest of ours, who you know well. She's done some commentary for you guys. What is the main starting block? What's the main foundation, Jonny?
You got to have a drive to do it. You've got to be a highly motivated person. You've got a highly kind of coordinated person as well. Um, and you've got to have people around you that want to do the same thing. It's not something that you can go and do on your own
Mm.
and go, I'm going to set up a racing community and I'm going to do it this way, because it would just fail so quickly, because your ideas that you're putting forward, you've got no one to put them forward to. So you're setting the rules, you're setting the incidents, you're setting the leagues to what you like, which might not be what everyone else likes. So having a good group of people and having a drive and motivation to actually to do something is the biggest thing, really. If you haven't got that, um, then just stick to community racing. Just stick to racing with your friends. And but if you kind of, I'm not to big myself up, but I think I'm quite an organised person when it comes to these things, and I have a very set standard I like to keep, and
Mhm.
that's kind of from the very first day of oNID to where we are now. That hasn't wavered at all.
I think you say about being organised. I think I use two analogies, one of which I can say on air, the other one I can't, as long as said behind closed doors. I'll say the behind closed doors one first, because this is not a for kids podcast, folks, because we do have some expletives we have had on previous shows, but we have the 7 Ps. Piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance, or fail to prepare to fail was the one that my dad taught me as a young'un. Do you feel that's very much true, even though that through the 2.5 years and gaining so much ground, especially with regards to the way that Sim Racing GP, we have to give a shout out to Thomas and Dan Terry and Adam Ely, everyone behind the scenes at Sim Racing GP, that do a fantastic job of making it so accessible now. The progression they've
Yeah,
made over the last couple of years has just been absolutely mind blowing. It is a case of, as that community leader, you're the one who's the be all and end all, and you've got to
yeah,
say, well, this is the procedure that we will do for screening members, and there's a lot of detail that goes into it, isn't there?
yeah. So much detail. It's not just starting a Discord and hoping people come to you and doing your advertising, and like you've mentioned, this in Racing GP made it very accessible very quickly. We were right on the button with it. We started in the February. We had a server for a set of Corsa Competizione, and we started off right, and we drew from other places as well. So we'd been part of On the Limit community as well, and we'd raced with Luke Crane over at Actualvision as well, and we'd raced in other places.
Mhm.
And you kind of draw on that experience as well, not to steal things, but to right, I need to write a rule set for Discord. So you kind of take that from, all right, I'll have a look at this one. What do they put? Compare it to someone else. What do they put?
Yeah.
And then you kind of bundle that together, and then you get right. There's my Discord rules. And then you do the same with league rules, and you draw from experience of others as well. And yeah, it's really quite difficult to get that all set up. But once that's set up, that's kind of your foundation for your community, and that kind of never changes. It might get tweaked here and there, but that's your foundation really to get going and kind of put that foundation in for you to be able to then grow and do more events and go from there.
I mean, how many racing series have you guys at oNID actually got at the moment? Because I keep on seeing oNID Racing
Oh,
popping up on YouTube, on Twitch, and I'm like, hang on, like it's a flourishing community. It's like one of these butterflies that have just come out of the chrysalis. Like, there are series popping up all over the place, and a lot of people in sim racing communities are volunteers. They don't earn money from this. Um, how many racing leagues have you got, Johnny? Please be honest with me, because I keep on seeing them. Like, holy crap, how many?
um, let's have a think. I have ACC and AC on a Monday, ACC on a Tuesday, AC on a Wednesday, AMS2 on a Tuesday as well. So that's five before we've even got to halfway through the week. Thursday we have our ACC Amateur Series and an AC one, so that's seven. Fridays we have ACC 2.4, so that's eight. Saturday's usually quite because it's our endurance day, and then our big one on Sunday. ACC is our main event on Sunday, so nine a week.
Bloody hell. And how many drivers, approximately, what, between 25 to 40 drivers per grid? depending on
Yeah,
depending on the
it
platform?
depends what. Yeah, it depends on game, depends on platform. Most of the ACC ones will be anywhere between 35 and 50.
Hmm.
AC is anywhere between kind of 18 and 24. AMS2 same 18 to 24. So decent grid sizes for the most part.
And what would you say? And I'm not going to put you on the spot. I want to ask you an honest question. Out of all the simulators that you've driven on, whether it be Assetto Corsa Competizione, R Factor 2, iRacing, Automobilista 2 is getting a lot of love because of the mods that are available, as is AC. What would you say is probably your favourite platform to go racing on yourself personally?
If you'd have asked this question 6 months ago,
Mhm.
maybe a year ago, ACT, Assetto Corsa Competizione, brilliant. If you love GT racing, it's spot on.
Mm.
You can't go wrong with it. If you like a bit of variety in your life and you like to try other things, I'm a big fan of club racing myself. So Clio's, Radicals, Mini Challenge, touring cars,
Yeah.
proper club racing. It's Automobilista 2 all day long. I was actually playing it just before I come on with you, getting my practice in for tomorrow's race. Yeah, just brilliant. There's so much like Project Cars 2, which is where I came from. For my sim racing career started in 2020 was Project Cars 2.
Mhm.
It's the same engine, but has such an amazing feel to it now. So many different cars and tracks that are available. You've got so much coming to it, and like you mentioned with the mods, a lot of Project Cars 2 mods because it's the same engine.
Yeah.
They've kind of transferred them over. Um, Willingly, unwillingly, illegally, we don't know. But the fact that you can just put a content manager up, drag and drop the files in
Yeah.
there, it's just so good on it. Absolutely fantastic.
Now we mentioned Jimmer a little bit earlier on at the top of the show.
We did.
Um, how often are you having like chats with him? I would imagine it might be because obviously he's now doing a lot of racing over at the Nordschleife with
Yeah,
Super GT, aka Steve Alvarez Brown, if you didn't know his real name, and Misha Sharadin, who's the most prolific Nürburgring Nordschleife YouTuber ever, but has also worked at Rimac. How involved is Jimmer behind the scenes whenever you get the chance to talk to him, or is it just like he just
not
says, "Johnny, just go and do your thing"?
yeah, not really. We had the conversations when we were 18 months into looking after Jimmer, and kind of there was lots of conversations at the start, and explained that what I do is what I do, and this is how I do it, and we're not gonna waver from that. And I think that's partly what got us the opportunity. I think he liked the fact we had a set of rules and we had an instant panel. We had steward in and what we did, and we've had conversations. Don't get me wrong; it wasn't 18 months ago. The last time I had a conversation with him,
Mhm.
it was very much. We had a conversation a few months ago, and I said, "I'm just going to go and do what I'm going to. I'm just. You happy?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm happy." So we kind of just we carry on doing what we're doing. Obviously his life's got so much busier recently, so trying to get hold of him and I try
Yeah,
not to hassle him too much.
yeah.
Um, he does every so often message me at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday and go, I want to race at 6 o'clock and I want you guys to be involved. It's like, oh, okay. All systems go. I'm at my real life job. So, and then I'm trying to fill an event. But we do it every single time. He's got a great community that, I'll say, look, Jimmy's racing tonight. We need to go and fill this grid. And the guys just come in their droves and come and join. But yeah, he kind of just leaves us to it. We kind of like brief conversations. I think the last time I actually spoke to him was at British GT, Silverstone 500. That was the last time I spoke to him.
That's a few months ago as well. We're probably
Yeah,
talking what, May, June of this year,
yeah,
probably something
May.
like that. So
Yeah,
best part of 3.5 months or something like that. But I mean that's really good to hear that that Jimmy gives you has full confidence in you. I mean, of course, for those people that know what he does outside of obviously running the Belstein Black Falcon run BMW at the Nordschleife, he's also one of the commentators alongside my good friend Tom Brooks for Gran Turismo.
yeah,
Um, he's a YouTube legend. Had the opportunity of doing his the Race for Mental Health 4. I worked on the broadcast for that alongside Adam Weller, Ash Vanderlei, who's one of the more prolific
yeah,
Twitch streamers. She's now doing work with Red Bull Esports, SRO. Actually had the opportunity. She'd flown all the way over from Washington State to Spa. Finally met up with her at the SRO Esports Arena because she was busy doing all the, like all the Twitch stuff, and it was just like
Yeah.
really, really crazy that. And for those wondering how many people I met, I've probably mentioned this. We had at the Fanatec Esports Arena, we had George Morgan, we had me, we had Paul Jeffrey, we had Mike Yao, Steve Proudley, Ash Vanderlei, Tom Bunton,
Yep.
Rory Alexander, Lewis McGlade, Cam Roger. There was like this whole conglomeration, and most of them were people like myself who were on commentary. And I was just like thinking, holy crap, finally I get to meet these people in person. And
Yeah.
it's just like, it's really, really good.
Surreal.
It is quite surreal when that happens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of the same whenever you meet people within, like, you and I both know Ben Brown very, very well. I still, and obviously for those that don't know, that one of my current roles on commentary is part of the Moser Racing Endurance Championship, powered by Sim Racing GP, where we have oNID Racing, oNID Camsport, and also oNID Simhound rookies.
Yep.
Because I think the last round was Valencia.
Yep.
Just the beginning of the month, the beginning of September. But I think that's one of the other things. Now, this is where I go onto social media.
Okay.
And we're talking about meeting in real life. So, Johnny,
Yep.
I'm going to remind you of the oNID Christmas party at Simply Race, December the 18th last year. And there is a picture I am posting right now of Steve Worrell, you in the middle, and Dan Terry. What on earth is that monstrosity of a t-shirt he was wearing? And it's that's really good to see. It's one of those moments that you will only capture in real life. And my question, I don't know if Dan, you're going to answer this because I'm definitely getting you on the show. How many beers was Dan deep at that point?
Oh, we were a lot deep. That was the end of the night. We were a lot deep. I think Dan got there at 1. I didn't get there till kind of 2:30. This was the pub before Simply Race. Simply Race wasn't booked till 7.
Right.
And I knew it was going to be a bad night when we were doing glitter bombs at 5:00 in the afternoon.
No.
I was like, yeah, this is not going to be good. And then we got to Simply Race, and obviously Steve was still at SGP then, and he said, obviously, thank you for everything you've done for SGP. I'll buy all the guys a beer. So we all had a beer there, and then he just kind of sidled up to me and was like, you can just drink on the tab, don't worry about it. Just, thank you for everything. So I stood, you know what Simply Race is like. I stood behind the counter with Grant, and I was just drinking beers, just taking them out of the fridge and drinking beers quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that is why I always look that there's got to be one moment, and that moment stood out for me because it just goes to show that it's nothing about community, folks. It is about people. We're all human at the end of the day, aren't we, Johnny? It's all about the fact of Dan with the biggest Cheshire cat grin on his face. There's Steve with a smile, and there's you in the middle, like going like, "Come here, boys," like bro hugs, on the podium at Simply Race. It just means a lot to us when, there's all these like LAN events. We've recently had Gamescom in Cologne. We've had Insomnia, which you were at the other week. We've got the Sim Racing Expo coming up. There's DreamHack Hanover later on this year, the week before Christmas. But I mean, it's really nice when you get to meet people that have raced within the community and you meet up with them in person. It's a lot easier to talk to them. You could just tap them on the shoulder rather than DM them at like 4:00 in the afternoon saying, "You fancy catching up tonight?" You can actually go up to them whilst you've got a drink in your hand and go, "Hello, mate. How you doing? Long time no see." Even though you might have only spoken to him 48 hours previously on a Discord server.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way I could describe that was Adam Ely, obviously SGP, now head of marketing at SGP, actually started when oNID started. He was one of the first guys that I brought into oNID. I'd known him a little bit from OTL. He'd done a bit of commentary over there, and he'd actually commentated on one of the races I was in, and he was looking for somewhere to race, basically, on one Saturday night. So I just dropped him a message saying, "Look, I've started this community. We've got a race on Saturday night." This was well before Sim Racing GP. I had the likes of Chris Wilson, Christian Kelly racing in that as well.
Oh, yes, I remember them.
Yeah, the guys from Simply Race, they all came over. Matt Guja Scott as well. we had these guys racing, and Adam come over, and then Adam became basically my right hand man for a long time in oNID. Just incredible. And we had this moment where Will Dendy invited us to GT Cup. He said to me, "Look, I want you to come to GT Cup for the day. You know, it'd be really cool." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Got to meet Simon Orange and the Orange Racing team, and sit and watch a driver debrief. It was a really cool day. But anyway, Adam drives down to me on the Sunday morning, 7:30 in the morning, and I meet him outside, and it was like just it's the first time we'd ever met. I'd spoken to him for a good year prior, and it was like we'd known each other for years. There was no like. Sometimes you get that little bit of awkwardness, you know. It wasn't. It was like, "Oh, mate, how you doing? Right, I'm getting a car and straight to McDonald's on the way to Silverstone at Toaster Roundabout, have some grub together, and spent the day." And it was just like two mates catching up. And I think that's what sim racing's about. And I've kind of always had this in my head, like community is massive. There's platforms out there for sim racing. Obviously, you've got your LFMs, you've got your SGP, you've got the SimGrid, all platforms.
Yes.
But actually, the sense of community in sim racing is something that needs to be kind of nurtured and treasured a little bit, because these platforms are slowly taking over. They're going to. It's great for us. It's great for we've got a platform we can go and host leagues on, but we need to keep kind of that feel of community, and that's one thing I've always done. I've got 45 admins, I think, in oNID now, and we kind of all have the same kind of feeling. We need to keep that community feel, but still have strong rules, and we have to ban people, and all that stuff that comes with running the community. But at the end of the day, if I can jump in any voice chat in oNID and talk to people, that's for me. I think the sense of you join a voice chat in oNID, and they're like, "Oh my god, the boss is here."
And everyone goes quiet, don't they?
Yeah.
Everyone goes stum, and you're like, "That's all right, guys. Don't worry. I was just coming in to see how you're all doing. Just a quick catch up."
Exactly.
Because they always think that when the boss man jumps in a Discord chat and it's a voice chat, they go,
"It's trouble.
Oh shit! What have we done wrong now?" Like instantly,
absolutely.
They think the worst after what has been like, let's say, a positive couple of weeks, great racing. Everyone's enjoying themselves. More members are joining the community. So, Jonny, as you said, you mentioned, and I'm going to pick up upon this, is that running oNID is a full-time job, effectively, with the amount of hours that you put in. But what is your actual full-time job outside of the community?
So I'm a materials buyer for Barrett Homes Northampton. That is my actual job that I get paid for, and I do 8:30 till 4:30, or 8 till 4:30 every day. That is a full-time job. Something I've aspired to as well. I've done many jobs over the years. I never really quite found my calling. And then I kind of went and worked for Jewson, the merchant, and kind of learned about materials. And I got an opportunity to work for a house builder, and it was a no-brainer. And I got that job. Been there 2 years now, so I really enjoy it.
How many hours would you say probably a week that you're spending on oNID yourself personally? Would you say it's probably comparable to the full-time job that you do for Barrett Homes, or is it?
Oh, more.
Yeah.
More. Yeah, absolutely more. It's the things that, if you get 5 minutes at work, you just want to do something. Oh, I've just got to do something. Just remember to do something.
Yeah.
So it kind of oNID never switches off. I think is probably the best way to do it. I might not answer for 4 or 5 hours, but it never really switches off. So it's kind of a 24/7 kind of thing. The bulk time I put into it, kind of as soon as I finish work at 5 o'clock, I have between 5 and 7. That's kind of my time with my family, and we have dinner. And but when 7 o'clock comes, I'm in the man cave, as you might see. It's a bit dark and gloomy down here, but 7 o'clock comes and I'm down. Not every day. I try to spend some days away, and that's why I've got so many people that kind of volunteer for me as well, because I can just go, I'm not going to do anything today. I'm not part of this league. You guys, I'm comfortable. You guys running it.
Yeah.
But it's the messages when you sat upstairs. Obviously, Discord's on your phone, isn't it? Someone will message you, or you get tagged in something.
I know. I mean, like, I'm gonna give you an insight into what I actually have on my phone right now. Now, this is the front screen of my iPhone 14. So in my Messenger tab at the bottom, okay, I'm just going to click on that icon here. I have 7. So I got iMessage, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp Business, Telegram, Signal, Teams, and Discord.
Yeah.
And I hate to think how many servers I'm part of. Probably the best part of 25, and that's probably going to grow in 2024. I hate to think how many Discord servers you've got on yours, Jonny.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Third folder. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34,
You see,
35.
he's even counted it out for you folks. But like literally, I have to put my status on do not disturb unless I actually actively want to hear the, when you hear the message bleep on a server, especially.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have done to keep my sanity, folks, is I've put the notifications off on Discord. So if I want to hear it, I'll put me earbud in and then listen. Apart from that, when Discord is open, because for those that do wonder what setup I have, I've got triple screen setup. I've got a laptop and I've got screen number 5, which is the iPhone. I think probably in some point I'll probably end up having an iPad at Pro as well, because my mum might be looking to change hers at some point soon. So I'll get a nice little hand-me-down that I can update and have for myself. But yeah, like you say, with oNID, it is a case of it's ongoing. It's a consistent 24/7, 365. Even if people wish people happy birthday, happy Christmas, happy New Year, whatever it is, everyone is available. That's the That's the thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%. I've been messaging people Christmas Day. Just something will come up, just something, and it's like Adam will tell you he's the biggest. He tells me off so much.
Yeah,
I have a week's holiday. Always have a family holiday in the summer. Take the kids away. Might only be caravanning, but we love it. We go caravanning, and I'll leave it 2 days.
Yeah,
and something will draw me back in, and they're all at it really. Something draws me back in, and I'll get involved in something, and all I get told is go away. Fuck off. Just go and enjoy your holiday.
Like I said, folks, this is a not for kids podcast. All right, Jonny has just proved that by what he's just said there. But
yeah, that's what I'll get.
Exactly, you'll be told. Well, I'm going to use the politically correct term. You'll be told to go forth and frickin' multiply. That's what you'll be told to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you say, it is. We all are part of this eco center with regards to IT, modern day IT. You can't keep away from it. There's social media at the wazoo. Like literally, when I've been hearing about Snapchat and Reddit, and like I've got enough social media platforms to concentrate on. That even includes Threads from Instagram. And I'll be honest with you, Elon Musk getting his nose out of joint because X, no, I'm going to call it what it was, Twitter. I don't care, Elon. Throw me under the bus on that one. I don't give a shit. But Threads gave an opportunity, I think, to people that were posting more on Instagram and didn't have a Twitter account, that if they wanted to provide a YouTube link, they can, which is great, which is like links to anything on the internet. And that's what I love about the beauty of Threads. Of course, it's not as popular as Twitter has ever been, to be honest with you, because that's been around since day dot. Right, we're going to get onto some different questions now. So thanks very much, Jonny, for firstly your insights on with regards to like the community and the things that happen behind the scenes, and obviously the funny moment with Dan and Steve. So shout out to those boys. They are definitely making sure at one point both of them separately will be on the show at one point. What was the first ever motorsport event that you attended in person? And do you remember when, where, what racing did you go and see, and who did you go with?
Yes, it was I think it was the 99 Silverstone Formula One qualifying.
Oh,
I think it was 99. It might have been 2000. I went with my dad.
Hmm.
Got tickets for my uncle, who was at Arrows at the time.
Yep.
Uh, Damon Hill was at Arrows, if I remember rightly. And I was a massive Jordan fan because it had the buzzing Hornet livery.
Yes, because the thing
Jarno
was,
Trulli was in the car. I
oh
remember, I was a
God, the,
massive
the
fan.
the man that was coined as many having many trains behind him. It's the Arno Trulli train, and that is
Yes.
an analogy I use in any kind of predominantly when it's senior road tax out on track. You've got 36 drivers. You've got about gaggle of 12 and go, it's not the Arno Trulli train. It's the so and so train now, which is
Yeah.
like everyone just goes as soon as you mention the word Jarno Trulli and train. The amount of people that come up to you and go, I remember when people used to say that on commentary in Formula One. I said, yeah. Because for
Yeah.
those that don't know, tobacco sponsorship in the UK at that point was
Stopped.
banned.
It was.
Was
I
banned.
think, if I remember rightly, the year before it was the gold Benson and Hedges car,
Yes, it was.
and then it was originally the Benson and Hedges, but it had the nose cone on the front with the Hornet.
Yeah.
But then it got banned, and if I remember rightly, that's when it became Buzzing Hornets instead of Benson and Hedges.
And it also had a snake mouth at one point on that nose cone as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Benson and Hedges got replaced with buzzing hornets on the front of Eddie Jordan's cars. And I still remember when, what was it? It was Damon Hill and was it, I can't remember, was it Heinz Harold Frentzen when they got that
Frentzen,
1-2
yeah.
at Spa?
Yeah.
And
In the race that was ridiculous.
yes, in the race that was ridiculous. And Damon went on the radio and said, I think it's probably better for everybody else that we stay where we are.
Yes.
Which was the right call. And that was the only ever
Yeah.
1-2 for Eddie Jordan through his run as a team principal. That's pretty cool, though. 1999.
Yeah.
God, those were the days. Those were the days when they used to.
I think there might have been one before, or it might have been after. But do you remember when they used to do the Autumn Gold Cup at Silverstone?
Yes. And this was before the Walter Hayes Trophy, which is normally Formula Ford's.
Yeah.
The Autumn Gold Cup. Oh my goodness me! I remember.
Yeah,
I never went to one, but I did see
I
highlights
did.
of one.
Yeah, you used to get all kinds of things: Mini Cooper racing, Formula Fords, F3000s,
Mhm.
all the classics. But I definitely went to an Autumn Gold Cup, but I was only, I think I was 10 or 11 when I went to Formula One. I only went to the Saturday because my dad took my granddad to the race. So I only went to the Saturday. I remember it raining as well. God, did it rain? And I'm pretty sure it rained and dried up and Coulthard got pole.
I think you're right there. I think
I
you're right
think
on
it
that
was
front. Yeah.
that was the year I was
God,
there.
good old DC. That would have been in his McLaren days.
Yes, the West. Well, I don't know if it was West then, because wasn't West
Yeah, well, because they
tobacco?
had David and Mika on the side pods because he was teammates with
Yeah,
Hakkinen,
yes, because he had to take the.
and then we had the same with Kimmy as well later on
Yes, yeah,
when that man joined alongside
correct.
a certain Juan Pablo Montoya
Yes,
back in the day.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Next question, buddy. Favorite racing drivers? Who are yours?
Should we go by discipline?
We can do. The floor is yours, Mr. Ashley.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Formula One. Jenson Button.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Massive fan of Jenson. He was the last when he won the championship with Brawn. I think it was the last Formula One season that really interested me. I kind of went off it after that.
You know what? I'll be completely honest with you, Johnny. After Senna passed away in '94 at the San Marino Grand Prix, when we nearly lost Rubens Barrichello. Let's not forget that.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that was horrific.
That was with the old red and blue Jordan, if people might remember, when he whacked the barriers. Then we lost Simtek's Roland Ratzenberger through Aqua Minerale at 200 miles an hour, folks. 200 miles an hour. Through qualifying, who was his teammate at the time? A man I know very, very well. The man who's behind Brabham Esports, of course, David Brabham. Yep. And then we lost Ayrton within the first 20 laps of the race, going through the when Tamburello was a sweeping left-hander, not the triple apex, that we
Yeah,
see now. Very, very different corner. And for those F1 historians about you as well, you'll have known that Gerhard Berger had a massive prang there and his car
he
caught
did.
fire.
Yes, I remember it. I do
Hmm.
remember it. Yeah. So yeah, kind of Formula One. I just can't watch it now.
No,
Um,
that's fair
but
enough.
Jenson Button's definitely up there. And it kind of that crosses over because obviously he did Garage 56 this year.
Oh,
In NASCAR.
with the Hendricks NASCAR with Mike
So
Rockenfeller and Jimmy Johnson. Oh, that car sounded
I'm
awesome.
I'm a huge NASCAR fan.
Yeah,
Absolutely huge NASCAR fan. So there's so many legends in NASCAR, and
oh,
that's kind of where all my favourite drivers kind of sit. Um, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
yep,
He raced actually on Saturday in the Xfinity race. First time he's come back for a couple of years, and was actually winning the race until his car caught on fire. Um,
yep,
so I love Dale. Um, Obviously, because of my uncle working for RCR, Richard Childress Racing as well.
yeah.
So we kind of had the Clint Boyer was always a bit of a legend. He used to have the Jack Daniels number 7 car,
Oh God, yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Um, Finished Daytona 500 on its roof. I'll tell you a little story about that
Oh,
actually.
oh, go on
So
then, go on.
my mum went to the RCR museum in Charlotte, in Carolina,
Yeah,
to go and see where my uncle worked, and they the famous picture of the Jack Daniels car on its roof, Daytona 500, going through the grass, finished on its roof. Clint Boyer's in the car. Um, they didn't do anything but pick it up, put it on a flatbed, and put it in the museum. And it's in the museum with turf hanging out of it. It's just exactly as it was on the track. They didn't do anything, didn't clean it up, just put it straight in the museum. And that's where it sits today with all the turf hanging out of it.
it's a bit like with Audi and their LMP1 cars at the Ingolstadt Audi Forum, which I had the fortune of. It was 2018, and I just finished my first full season as the commentator for the Rotax Max Euro Trophy, and I decided, well, you know what? I haven't had an opportunity to be. I hadn't been to Germany in, get this, folks, 24 years. 19. I did. And there's something I haven't really told many people about is that for my work experience at secondary school, I did an international work experience. So I ended up working in Hamburg for 2 weeks at an electronics stroke radio record store, which was called Schauland, which had a one of those sort of like console game like ghost characters as part of the logo.
Yeah.
And everything in the top 50 hit parada included David Hasselhoff with a dodgy, flashy codpiece on it as well. But yeah, I mean, I decided, you know what, it's my first time in Germany for 24 years. I've always wanted to go to Ingolstadt and to Munich. So I wanted to visit the Audi and the BMW Welt, Audi Forum and BMW Welt in one day. I nearly accomplished it. The only problem is that BMW decides to close the BMW Welt on a Monday. And my flight
Oh
was
no.
Monday night. However, it didn't, I still managed to make it to both locations. So I actually stayed in a hotel which is literally 2 minutes drive from Audi's HQ in Ingolstadt,
Yeah.
called Humreich, which was really, really nice. So I drove from Wackersdorf to Ingolstadt, which was about an hour and 20 minutes after we'd done all the championship presentation and everything. Drove down to Ingolstadt, stayed in the room, wonderful place, chilled out, nice breakfast in the morning, drove 2 minutes down the road, free parking if you were going to the Audi Forum. They were changing the glass panels, so I got free entry. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And I also saw, I'm going to put a picture on screen now, and Jonny, I'm going to actually try and find this picture. I actually saw the original prototype for the first ever Audi e-tron in its
Oh, nice.
I'll bring that picture up on screen now as we speak. But I saw the first ever Audi e-tron that eventually got eventually got revealed in, I think it was San Francisco. Yeah, it was San Francisco. It got revealed back then. So I think I might be able to find it. Let's see. I'm scrolling through my phone as I'm doing this, which isn't a bad thing. Let's just see if I can find it. Well, let's have a look. It's there somewhere. Amidst all the bloody hundreds of pictures I took on in the Audi forum. It was actually when I came out of the Audi forum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Jonny has just seen that picture whilst I've kept it up on screen. And that was on the 1st of October 2018. So that is nearly 5 years ago to the day.
Wow.
It's really, really weird. And that's at the point of recording this episode, folks. Yeah, so I ended up going there. And then I ended up having lunch in the restaurant. So I had a traditional currywurst mit Pommes with mayonnaise and as a traditional Bavarian drink. But it's also known all across Germany called Spezi or Mezzo Mix, which is a combination of Coca-Cola and Fanta. German creation. Yep. And it is a bit like Marmite. Either you love it or you hate it. My niece tried it when she went to Berlin for a school trip earlier on this year. Hated it.
To be fair, I do have a tendency to like a muddy puddle.
That's a good analogy there.
Coca-Cola and pure orange juice.
Well, yeah.
That's quite nice. I can imagine Fanta would not be bad.
Only you've got probably an added carbonation in that with the Fanta.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
all the carbs.
Yes. Yes, all the carbonation. Well, the more gas, the better. You know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then so I ended up going to the BMW's like main area. So right underneath the tower, like the 3-pillar tower that I've got, that was inaugurated back in 1972. So it's been around for over five decades, as BMW celebrated its centenary last year, and 50 years of the main tower, which is quite cool. And then I was looking at everything, and this is when like the BMW 8, like the 8 came out, the i8 was out. You then had all the plug-in hybrids, so like the 218 Active Tourer, which is a car that I think is an absolute monstrosity, BMW. Like some of the designs, like say the BMW XM, which is another Marmite's car. It's the one with it's the twin-turbo V8 hybrid. It's the SUV that's got the biggest set of kidney grills, and people like saying, "What on earth is that?"
Oh,
yes.
Ooh.
Johnny's just taking a look at what I'm talking about. Ooh. It is a bit of a Marmite's car. Some people like it, some people don't.
No. It looks like something that should be out of Tron or Transformers.
It looks like. I'm going to make an analogy here. You ever remember Eurotrash with Antoine de Caunes and Jean-Paul Gaultier, yeah? You had
I don't know what you mean.
You're lying because I can see the smile on your face. Anyone might remember the French exotic star that was on there that had more plastic surgery than what she could actually do with. That's what that's how I use the analogy with regards to the BMW XM. This is probably going to be edited out of the chat anyway, but never mind. But yeah, that was pretty good. So, okay, so we're digressing slightly, but it's always good to do that. So, so we've had NASCAR, we've had Formula One, British touring cars, Johnny.
Plato.
Oh yes, the panto villain of British touring cars for many a year.
Do you know, and I'll tell you why. Is because I saw him in touring cars. I absolutely loved him in touring cars. Him and Matt Neal had the best battles when I was kind of. They were just brilliant. But then he had the period where the Super Tourers kind of stopped, and Neal and Plato went off, and they left British touring cars.
Yes, they did.
They actually went to the British ASCAR series.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, I remember that now.
Obviously, being a NASCAR fan, I live in Northampton. Rockinham's only in Corby.
Yep.
So kids got in free. I was under 16 at the time. So Dad was like, "Come on, we're going up to the Oval up at Rockingham." Every Sunday it was on, and then and it was Plato versus Neal in what was the old Chevy Impalas that used to be the NASCARs, which are now the Arkham Menard series. And they use all them cars in that. Just brilliant. And we had so many good drivers in that series. So many. Ben Collins, the Stig.
The originals. No,
Yeah,
the what? No, for those
he
wondering,
wasn't the original, wasn't
no,
he?
Perry McCarthy. And if you haven't read his book, if you haven't read Perry McCarthy's book, which I actually have upstairs in my bedroom, I'm still halfway through reading it. I have to at one point get Jason Plato's book. I've heard it's an
I love
absolute
Jason.
riot. Absolute riot.
I can imagine it is.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so British touring cars, GT3s. Who would you say probably is one of your favourites?
Uh, it kind of. I know he varies between prototypes and GT3, but Nick Tandy's great. I love watching Nick Tandy. I think he's brilliant. Obviously, did the Porsche. I think he did Porsche Daytona this year. He was in the Porsche,
Yeah,
which was
well,
brilliant. And
yeah. Well, actually, funny enough, yeah, in the 963, and he was the one that lost it through the Le Mans chicane, formerly known as the bus stop. And it's
yes,
quite funny that you've now got the Daytona chicane at Le Mans, and now you've got
yep,
the Le Mans chicane at Daytona, and that was where Nick lost it during qualifying, and the left front took an absolute pounding. He still got it back
battering.
to pit lane. Still
Yeah,
got it back
no,
to pit lane.
I'm a big fan of Nick Tandy. I think he's great. Um, and I love some of the guys that GT3 is about people racing that you wouldn't necessarily think races.
Hmm.
Michael Fassbender's the one, obviously, with I can't
Yes.
remember the guy's names.
Ricard Leitz. Ricard Leitz is
No,
the
who? Yeah, there was the other guy, Patrick Dempsey. Obviously, Patrick Dempsey,
yes,
Proton Racing.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, they're just guys that are just gentlemen racers that just got into the sport and they want to race. And I love that about GT3. I absolutely love it.
Mm.
But yeah, Nick Tandy's always been one for me. Wherever he's racing, I'm like, go on, because he's only a Bedford lad as well, so
Well,
he's not a million
exactly.
miles away.
I mean, you look at it. He's for folks that are uninitiated in the world of sim racing. Nick Tandy's not just the Le Mans 24-hour real life winner. He also
Yeah,
won with Porsche Coanda alongside a good friend of mine who runs with Heroic in ESLR1, Tommy Usgard. They won the GTE classification of the first ever 24 Hours of Le Mans virtual.
yeah, yeah, he's great, and there is that crossover as well. That's what I love
Yes.
about sim racing
Hmm.
because it's you see Max doing it, Max Verstappen. You see these guys. Obviously, Jimmy's now doing he's the other side. So he started in sim racing and has now
Yeah.
got a real drive. But the skills kind of work both ways, and you
Hmm.
know, I'm not very good at it. I don't ever pretend to be very good at it, but there's some people that are really talented. And Will Dendy, for me,
Hmm.
watching him, he's so quick, so quick.
I mean, let's actually get onto that that point where when you look at how people were laughing about a few years ago, like say the late 2000s, when a certain project run by Darren Cox, GT Academy, came along, and then you've got all these people such as Lucas Ordonez, Miguel Faisca, and of course the biggest name that really made an impact out of that program, Jan Mardenborough, whose story is now being told through I would call it more of a biopic as opposed to a biography film about him,
Yeah,
Gran Turismo,
yeah,
because there's it's really interesting about because I've watched the film. I am going to give my honest thoughts on a review at some point when I get the opportunity to try and traipse through all the prep work that I've got to do, all the podcasts that I'm recording, which are edited and being put onto the respective audio platforms as well. Um, but funny enough, there are two links that indirectly connect me with Jan Mardenborough, and I'll share them with you. His dad used to play for two football clubs, one of which is Cardiff. I have
right.
family in Penarth who live 20 minutes away from Cardiff Central. And the other one was Colchester United. Colchester, 20 minutes by car from me, where I live. So there's an indirect correlation. But to see a kid who was doing mechanical engineering at Cardiff University and then decided to, one summer, go for the opportunity. Yamaguchi's son and Darren Cox having this idea of getting the best sim racing drivers together, putting them head to head. Jan really exploded onto the scene. He then went over to Japan, raced in Japanese Formula 3, raced as a Works GT 500 Super GT driver in the most iconic of Nissan Skyline liveries, the Cow Sonic livery, which still is used to this very, very day. Things like that, where it really gave us an idea, an understanding that you can put a sim racer into a real life car, and if they've got the nous, then they'll do it. Jan, Lucas, both have got podiums, especially at Le Mans in LMP2. And then you look, like you said, Max Verstappen, a perfect example. The man who's on course to win his third successive Formula One world title is the man that is one of the big guns at Team Redline, who also are back through Red Bull and Verstappen.com, has a simulator in his living room. So when he's not at a track, he's on a sim at his place in Monte Carlo. It just goes to show that when the global pandemic happened, we had all these, these people from all walks of life. We had Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Emerson Fittipaldi, all these people jumping into sim racing. It was really wonderful to see how some really, really reacted and got into it. And then there were those that were thinking, you know what, this is just a stopgap. I'm going to have a laugh with this, but I'm going to see how good I actually am behind the wheel of a sim. It really does go to show that now in 2023, we are seeing more talents coming through sim racing. Like, say, Moritz Lerner. Raced in DTM Trophy, commentated on by Actual Vision, Luke Crane, who was one of my first guests within the first 10 episodes. Tim Heinemann is another example. He's gone from sim to DTM, and he's running with TalkSport WRT in the Porsche against the likes of Kelvin and Shelvin van der Linde, Mirko Bottolotti. There's so many people. Mauro Engel, Lucas Auer.
You have a look at James Baldwin.
Yeah, Baldwin's another example. Him and Rudy Van Buren, both were the winners of the first ever, the first two, and there weren't any since, World Fastest Gamers. Rudy's been doing Porsche Super Cup. James has won in British GT, fun enough, with Team RGN, who just so happened to be aligned with your favourite F1 driver, Jenson Button, in Team Rocket. But it's really good to see that line that people said there's like 3.5 years ago, people were bluntly going, sim racers ain't worth squat. Like, there was a lot of people having doubts, and now we have that. I wouldn't say that we have that luxury, you and I, or a lot of people in the community, but we have that viewpoint whereby that line is so thin, that line isn't going to exist in a few years. Probably not even 18 months.
No, absolutely. And I actually think sim racers that will have the opportunity to transfer over to IRL racing actually are better mannered than some of the guys that Will Dendy is the prime example. And I'm going to tell you this little story about Will, because obviously Will's very quick, races GT4 for Orange Racing, looking to get a GT3 drive next year, so that should be great. He races in real life, comes to do leagues with us, because obviously we all know Will, and Will's a great supporter of us. Will does something that he thinks is acceptable in real life and probably wouldn't be punished for, but actually in our rules and regulations, he got a heavy penalty.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I got called to the stewards for that. Yeah, because you can't do that in sim racing. It's, you've got to be there's a set rules. So actually, when the sim racers go to real life racing, it's like, they're a bit more aware and a bit more honest than you probably find some of these older gentleman club races that are a little bit more get your elbows out, touring car style.
Exactly.
So there won't be a line soon, like you said. There won't be a line. There'll be crossovers galore. I hope that oNID still exists to see it, and I think we will. As long as my passion's still there and I can still drive it on and things go our way, I think we'll still be there and we'll see it through to to wherever it may be. I've not got any plans to kind of hold back anything.
Hmm.
Um, we'll just go with the flow and go with the times and see where, like you say, when that line disappears, see where we end up and what we can do from there.
Exactly. Right. Next question. Have you ever been starstruck when you've had the cat in the headlights moment, when you've met a racing driver or you've met a personality, say maybe in person within the sim racing community that you've gotten on well with? Have you ever had that moment where you've had the cat in the headlights minute?
Um, yes, but not within sim racing and
Okay.
not within the racing world. Um, Obviously, I met Jimmy for the first time in May, which was that was cool. I've spoke to him plenty of times on voice calls and stuff, and it was cool to meet Jimmy. But I've never had that moment with racing. I don't know. I've musically, I have.
Hmm.
I had a very amazing moment because I love music. Music's a big passion of mine. I had a moment where I don't know if there's a band called Alter Bridge and Creed. They used to be years ago.
I've heard of
Um,
them. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's a guitarist, Matt Tremonti, who a friend of mine was doing sound engineering for his support act.
Yeah.
Said to me, rung me up one day and went, oh, "By the way, um, I've got your VIP tickets for London to come and see Tremonti in his own band. You need to be in London tonight." Okay, yeah, I'll get on the train. Jumped on the train. Met the guy who was doing sound engineering. Yeah, I had a chat with him. He said, "Wait here at the end of the show. I'm going to take you backstage, go and see the Raven Age with the band that was supporting. Go and hang with the Raven Age lads." I was like, "That's brilliant." He said, "And then we'll take you in to go meet Matt Tremonti." And I kind of was like, "Okay." And then, yeah, walked into his changing room and I had that moment of like, that's like my guitaring hero. I've listened to his music since I was like 11 years old,
Yeah.
and here I am at 25. Like, oh my god!
It's like the holy shit, this is happening moment,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Absolutely,
I,
absolutely.
I like the fact. I like the fact, Johnny, that that you've brought in actually out of every single guest so far, you're the first one that has actually done something different than sort of like say a race driver. It's like a musical hero, like Mark
Yeah,
Tremonti.
yeah,
That's mega, mate. I mean that's
yeah.
it. Just goes to show this is the reason for commentators corner, folks. As I keep on pounding everyone's eardrums with it, is that everyone has a different moment where it might not be a racing driver, it might not be a personality, it could be someone from the music industry or from film or from TV or from radio, where you get that starstruck moment. So this is a first for Commentators Corner, Johnny. So well done. And
Sweet.
that's another tick in the box. Um, but I think we've got three more questions before we wrap things up. Um, what are the future goals for oNID apart from continuing to flourish and expand? What are the future goals? What's a big goal that you really want to hit? Maybe, let's say, if oNID's still going in the next 5 to 10 years, where would you want to see the future of oNID being?
So, well, giving away secrets, giving away plans
Oh no
here.
no 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 no! Give away as little as possible, but where would you personally like to see it?
Personally, I'd like to be the go-to community for sim racing.
Hmm.
Um, I think me and my team have the drive to do it. It's whether people come and go,
Yeah.
but I think if I can keep a core team that are still doing it in 5 to 10 years, I think I'd like to think we could be, bigger than an RCI. Bigger than be the biggest out there. But I want people coming to me to do things. I'm never going to be. I'm never going to be the likes of SimGrid and because they're platforms.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a platform. Maybe one day. One day, maybe not too soon. We'll give it a go. LFM is going to be, they're a platform. They're going to be big. We're not going to be iRacing LFM kind of platform big,
Hmm.
but I want to be the home of community racing. I want to be the first name on people. You know, you could talk to anyone. You might have a friend that does sim racing. Where do
Yeah.
you sim race? Only community racing. That's what I want to be. I want to be that. I'd love to see us get past 5, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 members over the next few years.
Hmm.
Will we get it? I hope so. I hope so. Things change, life changes, but my plan is to keep it going. as long as possible.
Very good answer there, mate. Very good answer. Spot on. Penultimate question. Right, name 3 memorable moments in motorsport that you have watched that you just go like, oh my God, I can't believe I've just seen that. What are the first 3 like magical moments in motorsport that you remember off the top of your head right now, Mr. Ashley?
Motorsport, so it can cover any kind of
Any kind of
motorsport.
motorsport, whatever you like, mate. NASCAR, whatever.
Um,
The floor is yours.
so last year, you've probably seen it. Ross Chastain doing the wall ride at
Oh,
Martinsville
yes. Yes, and he got through.
to,
Oh, my
to
God.
get into the final 4. Just video game crap. How did he do it? Like, it's just bizarre. Like, what goes through someone's head as a race driver
Yeah.
at 150 miles an hour to stick it in the wall and go quicker than anyone else, beat Denny Hamlin on the line to get in the final 4 into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Just incredible. Incredible. Yeah, that's got to be up there. Casey Stoner in MotoGP
Mm-hmm.
sideways on a bike around the last corner at Valencia.
Oh, God.
Completely sideways. The rear was overtaking him and held it as he comes around the last corner at Valencia. Just absolutely incredible. Just wow. What a wow moment. You'll just watch it and go, he's going to come off. He's coming off.
Yeah.
The bike's going to spit him off, and it just didn't.
That's a good one.
Just incredible.
I still remember. You remember when he was having the ding dong with Valentino Rossi and overtook him at the corkscrew at Laguna Seca one year?
Incredible move.
That was a good one. And your
Yeah.
final magical moment, Mr. Ashley, please.
This one, just because I think I was surrounded by my friends at the time. Interlagos, Timo Glock, wrong tyres, rain starts coming. Lewis Hamilton beats Massa to his first title in Formula One. I think just because I was surrounded by friends that we love Formula One at the time, and you just go, the commentator goes, "Oh my God, is that Glock? Is that Glock?" And he just goes past him.
That was Martin Brundle, folks. That
Yeah,
was Martin Brundle saying, "Is that Glock? Is that Glock? Yes, it is. I remember it like it was yesterday."
Yeah, that was a fantastic moment.
Oh, that's brilliant. 3 magical moments there, Johnny. But your final question, and this is where I flip the script a little bit. So my guest provides their answer. I then provide a corresponding answer. So, Jonny Ashley, your final question here on Commentator's Corner is that if you had no budget limit, no cost cap like they have in Formula One, no glass ceiling about money, okay? You have a choice of which circuit you can drive a car, be it road or race car of your choosing. Tell me what car you would pick, where you would drive it, and why.
That's a really tough question.
It gets every guest thinking. That's why I always like to end it on this one.
The track is easy.
Go on.
Watkins Glen.
The full one with the loops, or the short one?
the short version, but still has the bus stop. So instead of going, when you go out the bus stop, you go right and go down the hill. You just go right back on yourself, back to the last couple of corners.
Okay. Yeah.
Car. I'm torn. They're both British cars.
Right. Okay.
And I'm torn between the 2.
I will give you both.
Bentley Continental GT3.
The M Sport one where they took half of its carcass off it in weight. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And Ginetta GT4 Super Cup.
G55?
G56 sounds so much better than the 55.
Okay, cool. Right, okay. Right, you're saying Watkins Glen for the circuit. I am going to say a staple, Road Atlanta.
Great track.
Okay, now known as Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, based in Braselton in Georgia. So, we are now going to look at cars from the era of when the Bentley Continental GT3 raced. Now, also, folks, if you have ever watched Chris Harris drives cars. He competed in a Bentley Continental GT3 at Spa a few years ago. So, Bentley Continental GT3. I'm trying to remember what years that was running.
2015 to 20, I think it finished in 2021 was the last time M Sport.
Yeah.
So you look in 2018, I think was the new version, which is the run with a really big grill on the front. Looks amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So Bentley Continental GT3, which is turbocharged V8, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Car I'm going to choose was one of its rivals. Aston Martin Racing Vantage V8 GT3. So you got two different US tracks.
Yep.
Two different GT3 cars right here on Commentator's Corner. Bentley and Aston Martin. You couldn't think of two bigger British marks that have been involved in motorsport for so many years. Jonny Ashley has been having a pleasure having you on here for Commentator's Corner for episode number 24. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we go?
Just everyone at oNID, especially Ben Brown, Dave Selecki, the founders of oNID. I couldn't do it without them. Adam Ely as well as Sim Racing GP. He's been my guy for many years. And my first ever community boss over at OTL, Matt Wilmot, who's an absolute legend, taught me everything I know and keeps me on a straight and narrow. So there you go. Brilliant.
Big thank you to Jonny for joining me on episode number 24. Got another guest coming up for episode 25 at a quarter of a century, folk. Don't forget, if you haven't already, like, share and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, this is not only a video podcast, it's also an audio podcast. We are now sharing this far and wide through Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and also Google Podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. See you very soon for episode 25. Goodbye.